Chinese leader Xi Jinping faces a deep political crisis. His spy chief has devised a covert strategy to help him, that is, leveraging pro China forces within the U.S. to exploit American partisan politics to launch attacks on one of the CCP's most formidable adversaries. The plan involves the New York Times, the Trump administration, and a sophisticated CCP spy network operating in the US. I made a video titled, What Does the CCP Fear the Most?, where I explain that the CCP's greatest fear is Falun Gong, a spiritual practice that focuses on the mind and body cultivation, guided by the principles of truth, compassion, and tolerance. Falun Gong has faced brutal persecution in China for the past 25 years. What amplifies Xi Jinping's anxiety even further is Donald Trump's return to the White House. For Xi, the ultimate nightmare would be Falun Gong working with Trump to expose the CCP's crimes. Such collaboration could topple the regime, a scenario that unnerves him. The World Organization to investigate the persecution of Falun Gong, the organization released a special report on January the 6th, revealing newly obtained CCP intelligence. So in its January 6th report, the organization disclosed the regime's secret plan for a series of transnational attacks on Falun Gong as part of its broader plan against the United States. And after Trump's win in the election, eliminating Falun Gong in the US became a CCP priority, as the meditation group is seen as a major threat to the regime because of its great influence. The first is the significant influence of the English edition of the Epoch Times in the US. The report says that it explains why the paper and its key personnel have become primary targets for CCP attacks. And the second is the Shenyun Performing Arts Global Tour, which have been the primary targets of CCP's disinformation campaigns and sabotage efforts. So in this strategy, the CCP perceives Falun Gong as the US government as one entity. From Beijing's perspective, attacking Falun Gong, its founder, Shen Yun, and the Epoch Times, is part of CCP's broader confrontation with the US. And the organization leading this attack is the New York Times. Since April, the paper has published not one or two, but 9 articles attacking Falun Gong and Shen Yun. If you really think about it, 9 articles in 9 months attacking a Chinese spiritual group is a little obsessive. I mean, from a Western journalism's perspective, or from the perspective of the American market, I don't think the New York Times readers have this level of interest. What made the New York Times so obsessed, I think, is part of CCP's big plan. So I think the 9 articles, the number 9, was a CCP mandate. But the Times, I must say, wasn't ignorant. It apparently knew what it's doing, according to another source. So a few days ago, the Epoch Times received tips from an insider in the CCP's Ministry of Public Security, someone from within the ministry who used the pseudonym Mr. Shen. So Shen disclosed even more details on the origin of CCP's plan and the role the New York Times has played. And it started with a video. A few years ago, someone brought a Shen Yun performance video back to China, which eventually reached individuals close to Xi Jinping. After watching it, these people liked it and recommended it to Xi Jinping. However, parts of the program depicting the CCP's persecution of Falun Gong had been edited out. Unaware of the show's Falun Gong affiliation, Xi Jinping reportedly was very impressed. Later, at a cultural department meeting, he mentioned the performance, praised its quality, and suggested that relevant departments drew inspiration from it. When someone informed him that the performance was by Shen Yun, a Falun Gong affiliated group, and that it included content critical of the CCP. Xi Jinping became furious. He reprimanded those present by saying this. He said, a civilian group can produce such high quality performances, yet you, despite receiving substantial state funding every year, produce nothing but chaos and mediocrity. The officials reprimanded by Xi were enraged and developed an intense hatred for Shen Yun, which led to plans to escalate interference and attacks against the art group. After plans to attack Shen Yun were initiated by propaganda and the United Front departments, there's another individual, Chen Yixing, who is the head of the State Security Ministry. He took interest in the initiative and saw an opportunity to leverage the crackdown on Falun Gong for political gain. It's said that Chen Yixing submitted a report to Xi Jinping listing Falun Gong's 10 major threats to the regime. The central argument was that if Falun Gong were not eradicated, a potential U.S. Falun Gong alliance could lead to a formal investigation into CCP's persecution of Falun Gong. So Chen proposed a plan to use the U.S. government to eliminate Falun Gong. And the strategy involved pushing the U.S. government to label Falun Gong as a cult and criminalize its activities. This designation would justify CCP's persecution, including forced organ harvesting, and prevent any global accountability. Such a move would render Falun Gong powerless worldwide. So to do this, they want to take advantage of the political divide in the United States. So Shen pointed out that the New York Times attacks on Shen Yun and Falun Gong go far deeper than just receiving some money to publish some articles. The Times is taking their reputation and credibility on this. This is what Mr. Shen said. He said, the truth is Falun Gong has no real issues at all. Mr. Li and Falun Gong community as a whole are absolutely clean and without fault. This is something they all know, and the New York Times must also know this. So according to Shen, the reason the New York Times decided to aid the CCP by smearing Falun Gong and Shen Yun is that certain high-level CCP officials and a few U.S. politicians have reached some form of agreement. In this arrangement, these individuals assist the CCP in targeting Falun Gong in the U.S. in exchange for specific benefits they will receive from the CCP. The exact details of this deal are unknown, but Shen said that many insiders in the political circles in Beijing are aware of it. He said most of the materials used in the New York Times attacks reportedly come from the CCP spies embedded within Falun Gong organizations. And some of these materials were even fabricated by these spies. Falun Gong being headquartered in the US now and gaining international influences is CCP's Achilles heel. At this point, Mr. Shen said, the CCP will not allow this vulnerability to remain in American hands. So he said CCP's strategy is to exploit partisan conflicts in the US politics to sow discord between the US government and Falun Gong. So he also warned that these efforts would not be confined just to the United States. He said that once they succeed in the US, the CCP will replicate the approach in other regions worldwide. I'm skeptical that the CCP strategy will work. This is because the Times' strong anti-Trump stance, now combined with its anti-Falun Gong position, could ironically strengthen the bond between Trump and Falun Gong. So by aligning with the CCP's agenda, the New York Times may unwittingly expose its connection with the CCP and CCP's ulterior motives to the Trump administration. I think it's the dumbest move possible. Furthermore, by siding with the CCP, the New York Times has jeopardized its future and credibility in journalism. Now, reports indicate that to execute this new initiative by the Ministry of State Security, many CCP undercover agents in the US have been mobilized due to its urgent nature. Now, these spies have infiltrated Falun Gong organizations, the US government, Chinese American communities, and even US institutions like the New York Times. This is a rare opportunity for them to review themselves. And it's also the perfect time for the FBI to track them down and catch them in action. These agents are typically hard to identify, but their mobilization provides a unique chance to expose and neutralize them.